Ladies and gents, welcome to UX and this is Medieval Europe, 1000 years in 20 minutes. My channel, How So? This feels like a newer channel because it has 60,000 subscribers. And this video was couple months ago, and it has 2 million views. Someone told me I should react to this one. And yeah, I wanted to watch videos like this because, yeah, this is about medieval Europe. Dark ages in Europe, a lot of kind of like a dark ages. While I think this was like a golden time for Islam. So I don't know how much is this gonna cover just Europe or everything around it. I don't know, like trading with Arab nations and everything. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Let's do this one.
New civilization was forged on the European continent. Nobles and kings, faith and warfare, culture and learning, trade and innovation. These set the foundations of the modern era. This is the story of how Europe was born. In the first 2 centuries CE, the vast Roman Empire engulfed the Mediterranean Sea. It was a time of stability, prosperity, and peace, the Pax Romana. Citizens enjoyed its flourishing culture, fair quality of life, and relative security. This was achieved through Rome's centralized government and advanced infrastructure. In the remote eastern margins of the empire, a new religion was born, Christianity. Beginning as a small Jewish sect, it slowly spread throughout the pagan Roman world. In the 4th century, it was embraced by the emperors, becoming the official state religion. But by then, Rome's glory days were over. The empire was suffering from inflation, plagues, famine, and invasions. Managing it from a single center was becoming impossible. In 395,
Yeah, Rome was all wise. Okay, Rome was always having that issue. Let's be honest. It was the bad emperors that fucked it up because Rome was always invaded by barbarians. Name me the time where it wasn't. It already had somewhat of corruption. It already had somewhat money issue because of the conquest. Yeah, I think in the Chads probably ran out. In the end stages, like Commodus and all, they just didn't work out.
CE, the empire was divided in 2. A Western empire with Rome as its capital, and an Eastern one ruled from Constantinople, also known as the Byzantine Empire. While the East was urban, rich, and prosperous, the West was rural, poor, and weak.
What?
It didn't last long. In the deep forests beyond the empire's borders, barbarian peoples were on the move. These were mostly Germanic tribes led by warlords and their loyal bands of warriors. These groups were pressing harder and harder on the Rhine and Danube rivers. Without much choice, the Western Empire began allowing them entry. Eventually, the frontiers were breached, enabling various peoples to migrate and settle within the borders of the empire. Whether guests or invaders, these peoples carved up Roman territory while imperial authority was crumbling. In 476, the barbarian leader Odoacer deposed the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire, Romulus Augustulus. This child emperor had no real power, but his removal stands as a milestone. The Western Roman Empire was
removal.
The so-called Dark Ages had begun. Romans, Christians, barbarians. These were the 3 main ingredients that combined to create medieval Europe.
There you go. Love it. East, early, central, and late. In the time of the time of central time, I think Constantinople's gonna fall. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's around 1200 something. And late is gonna be something like that. Conquest from Arab nations, right? Yeah, so this is gonna go all the way to Italian Renaissance or something, right? So 500 to 1500. Yeah, that's a 1000-year period. So we're gonna see, Arab nations rising around the year 1000 and things, probably.
Around 500 CE, Europe was covered by newly established kingdoms ruled by barbarian kings. Their elites, a merge between Romans and barbarians, had gradually converted to Christianity. The most prominent kingdoms were those of the Ostrogoths in Italy, the Visigoths in Spain, and the Franks in Gaul. But these kingdoms were lacking key elements necessary to manage successful states. The great cities of antiquity were depopulated, some left in ruin.
This is insane. Look at that. Hearts, hearts, hearts. Oh, by the way, aqueducts and like stone buildings. That's Roman Empire for you.
States. The great cities of antiquity were depopulated, some left in ruins. The Roman transportation system decayed, eroding communication and long-distance trade. Coins vanished, leaving no economic system to support professional armies. Literacy plummeted, crippling administrative systems. And most notably, peace and security were gone.
Who needs
This
education?
impoverished
That's what happened.
rural West was becoming more and more localized, fragmenting politically and linguistically. In the first centuries of the Middle Ages, it paled in comparison to its stronger neighbors. In the 6th century, Byzantine Emperor Justinian I strove to reconquer the West and restore the Roman Empire.
My man, there you go. Chad basically wrote the law of the modern Western world and other world following it.
To its past grandeur. But after conquering Italy from the Romanized Ostrogoths, the peninsula fell prey to new invaders, the Lombards. The Byzantines had to accept that the division between East and West was final. But soon they had to acknowledge yet another division, this time between North and South. In the 7th century, Arab armies swept through the Middle East and North Africa with astonishing speed, creating an immense Islamic caliphate. Where one civilization once thrived, now there were three: Islamic, Byzantine, and medieval.
Imagine that Rome struggling with Sassanids all the time, and suddenly this Islamic caliphate just suddenly washes over. Like, what the fuck just happened? That's what happened.
For a brief moment in the 8th century, it seemed as if the fragile and weak West might be overwhelmed by the caliphate. Muslim armies crushed the Visigothic kingdom in Spain, then went on to raid Francia. But in 732, in the Battle of Tours, they were defeated by the Franks under the leadership of Charles Martel. Islamic expansion in the West was halted, and the victorious Charles gave his name to a dynasty that was to change European history forever: the Carolingians.
Entire
Charles
50 years of
Martel's
empire.
son, Pepin the Short, seized the Frankish throne in a coup. He fought the Lombards in Italy, granting the Pope his own
How does the word like Pepin the Short gives you any feeling of like dominance or like any kind of like authority? Why is that the name?
most desired autonomous state. Pepin's son was the famous Charlemagne. After ascending the Frankish throne in 768, he spent decades fighting and expanding his kingdom. Ultimately, he held sway over most of Western Christendom.
I mean, you know when the name drop happens, something big's gonna happen, and there you go.
In 800 CE, Pope Leo III anointed Charlemagne Emperor of the Romans. More than 300 years after the fall of Rome, the West had an emperor once again. The Carolingian Empire was the first great power of the medieval West, leaving an enduring legacy. Charlemagne backed an intellectual and cultural flowering, the first of several medieval renaissances, intending to revive the lost knowledge and culture of antiquity. The empire disseminated throughout the West various political structures, institutions, titles, ranks, ideas, and dreams. Most importantly, an ideal of a unified Christian West. These formed the bedrock of medieval civilization.
Okay, you know what I want to say? Like, I realized something. We've seen religion as like a center point to all wars and like center point to all geopolitics. But another thing is, since the Roman times, barbarians have always been the issue. Integrating anyone else into your fold is always an issue. Like, how do you do that without actual war and like cleansing, let's just say, without using too much words here? I think religion was that element. Like, you just convert barbarians into Christianity and there you go, you're one people. I think Christianity was used like that a lot. This is why religious war became a thing, because religion was used as a central geopolitical tool. That even Romans couldn't do it back then, because Romans were constantly under invasion by barbarians. We saw that the first time, like when the Germanic barbarians basically invaded, they just converted them into Christianity and let in the fold. I think that happened a lot, way more than even the historian realizes. Because that was used as a tool to convert people and, I guess, make it bigger and stop the invasions. At certain level, at least.
The Carolingian Empire was short-lived. The attempt to create centralized rule in the West suffered from insufficient infrastructure, small cities, weak economy, limited bureaucracy, and poor communications. After Charlemagne's death, his three grandsons fought one another, and in 843, in the Treaty of Verdun, divided the Frankish Empire among themselves. The Middle Kingdom
Louis the German. Let Herr the First. Charles the Bald. Like what? Charles the Bald. Why are you calling me that? Because you're bald.
quickly diminished, leaving only West Francia, which would eventually become France, and East Francia, which will one day become Germany. These kingdoms continued to splinter and fragment, a process accelerated by external pressure. In the 9th and 10th centuries, a new wave of invaders attacked the crumbling Carolingian world from every direction. The Vikings came from the north,
why did I know
roaming the
that?
coasts and rivers of Europe, raiding and terrorizing the population.
Here comes many Brock Lesnar's with the blue eyes and like big swords and like 300-pound frames. Yeah, there you go.
The Magyars, better known as Hungarians, rode in from the east, plundering defenseless settlements. And finally, Muslim pirates and raiders landed on Europe's southern shores. Europe was under siege.
All right.
As the West was crumbling under repeated attacks, kings lost their power while local elites grew stronger. Europe was getting covered with a dense network of wooden castles serving as fortified residences of local noble families. From these strongholds, lords subjugated the peasants in their vicinity, extracting their resources.
Hey, this is what was that? Kingdom Deliverance? Is that yeah? That is the name, right? Like I'm forgetting names. Yeah, that game comes from around this time, I guess, because it looks like that. There you go. Yeah, it is around this time.
Lords ruled their lands by coercive force. In previous centuries, peasants were an integral part of infantry armies. But new military innovations, such as the stirrup, further established cavalry as a decisive force. This new kind of warfare required resources only nobles could obtain. Consequently, European elites became full-time professional fighters. In a world ruled by a warrior nobility, territorial power was attained by vassalage. One noble granted another land and protection, and expected in return his fealty and military service. Kingdoms were becoming complex networks of personal relationships and mutual obligations.
It's companies trying to do business to enforce that. This is basically what that is. One gets into a contract with another, with marrying daughter or whatever, I don't fucking know. But there you go, contract like mergers, there you go, bigger military, just better business all around, more peasants to work, there you go, cogs in the machine, yeah.
Kings were often weak and could be easily overshadowed by their strong vassals. This is often described as the feudal system.
They're like Japan, yeah.
Centuries would pass before centralized states would emerge again in the West.
Alright.
In the 10th century, things started to change. Better climate increased agricultural yield. External invasions ceased as Vikings and Hungarians settled down and were absorbed into Western Christendom. And in some regions, royal authority was gaining ground. In Britain, King Alfred the Great and his successors unified the various Anglo-Saxon realms.
Kingdoms? What was that TV show? Ulfred? Yeah, that one, the Kingdoms, whatever I'm forgetting the name. One of the best TV shows I ever watched. I don't like Vikings like TV show. I don't know, because I don't like that. I just hunt, I just conquer, and I just loot, pillage, and eat, and I live in a herd mentality. I don't like watching that. But that show, there was a Viking show, something like Last Kingdom. I think it was the Last Kingdom. It even had a mini movie recently, and I was like waiting for a long time. Like, when the fuck is that coming? And they just suddenly dropped on me because I wasn't really following the news. Well, that show was insane. I guess it was around this time, and that's the same king they're talking about here, right? The king that is part of the show.
Creating the Kingdom of England for the first time. In West Francia, while political fragmentation continued, Vikings who settled in the north swore loyalty to the Frankish king. They became French Christians known as the Normans.
Oh, here we go.
The Duchy of Normandy created a buffer against other wars. In East
I guess what's coming after that, after a few decades? What do you think's coming?
Francia, Otto I, king of the Germans, managed to defeat the Hungarians in the Battle of Lechfeld in 955, putting an end to the invasions from the east. The settled Hungarians eventually established a Christian kingdom of their own. The victorious Otto the Great was crowned emperor in 962. Europe had an empire once
Holy
again,
Roman Empire?
this time a German one. It was later known as the Holy Roman Empire. After centuries of turmoil, Europe was finally gaining stability and confidence, ready
Because one thing we know about Holy Roman Empire is the stability. That's it. It was the one kingdom that was so stable that like emperor could just rule from one place. Yeah, there you go.
to change course.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
The year 1000 marks a turning point in European history, ushering in 300 years of growth and prosperity.
Normans coming.
Better climate, combined with new technologies and techniques, led to an agricultural revolution. Europeans produced more food, resulting in population growth. New villages and towns were established, and existing ones expanded. Throughout Europe, forests were cleared as more and more land came under cultivation. This enabled immense economic expansion and commercial revival. Bustling trade networks fed a massive urbanization process. Old and new cities grew larger, becoming international hubs for a new class of merchants. These merchants won their independence from feudal landowners, forming self-governing cities. This was most evident in Italy, where merchants revived the Mediterranean trade. As quality of life improved, art, architecture, and music flourished. Europe was becoming increasingly literate, and the first universities were founded under the auspices of the Church. European intellectuals initiated a new renaissance based on the rediscovery and revival of ancient knowledge.
Okay, why did you not talk about? I thought it was a Norman was coming like 1066. I think that's a pivotal time, isn't it? Like Britain dominated the world. I mean, you can say like Western world is a Roman world, but like there's also another like checkpoint in between, which is like a British world. Most of Americans can be traced back to Britain somewhat. British conquest was kind of big deal, and yeah, the the whole like 1066 or like just conquering England, right? Like most of the people in England, like at least what it was, a third of them literally has a DNA into this king. I'm forgetting the name of the king. What was the fucking name? Like, yeah, whatever. The guy. Let's call him the guy. From the Normandy, right? It was a big deal. I thought he was going to talk about here. I don't know.
But Europeans were not only conquering internal frontiers, they were also pushing outward. During the Central Middle Ages, aristocrats from the Carolingian heartland conquered and colonized new territories, pushing the boundaries of Western Christendom. This process, described as the Europeanization of Europe, resulted in an expanded and more homogeneous civilization. In 1066,
Now he's talking. I thought he just went to 1100. William the Conqueror, right? William the Conqueror. Maybe. I don't know.
William the Conqueror,
See, just time I remember the name. There you go.
Duke of Normandy, invaded England.
There you go.
In the Battle of Hastings, he delivered a decisive blow to the Anglo-Saxons.
And spread his influence to everyone. That everyone still has his influence in them.
England was transformed into a Norman stronghold. In Iberia, the Christian kingdoms of the north fought the Muslims to their south, gradually extending their control over the peninsula. This was viewed as a reconquest. In southern Italy and Sicily,
Alright, damn, Spain was doing that, okay.
Norman warriors conquered vast territories from the Byzantines and Muslims. They allied with the Pope and established another Norman kingdom. In Eastern Europe, German aristocrats and peasants gradually moved eastward, settling on Slavic lands. But Europeans were casting their gaze further still. In 1095, Pope Urban II called on Christian warriors to liberate Jerusalem and other holy sites from the hands of Muslim infidels. Crusader armies swarmed to the east, establishing several states on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. These states proved to be a weak Western outpost. Over the course of 200 years, they were reconquered by Muslim forces. Nevertheless, they signaled an important message. The Catholic Church had awakened.
It really looks like an Israel at some level, the lands that were conquered.
In the early Middle Ages, the Pope was weak, holding little influence outside Italy. The Church was a loose network of priests and monks, appointed and controlled by local aristocrats. In the 10th and 11th centuries, a movement emerged set on reforming the Church and society as a whole. The reformers demanded to free the Church from the world, to extract it from the influence of kings and nobles, and rebuild it as a papal monarchy. Pope Gregory VII, an enthusiastic reformer, clashed with the Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV over the authority of appointing bishops in the empire. The first round of conflict ended with Henry waiting for 3 days in the snow outside a fortress at Canossa, begging for the Pope's forgiveness. The second round, however, ended as Henry invaded and appointed his own Pope, forcing Gregory into exile. Although it seemed as if the emperor had won, in the 12th
That's a flexible. Only emperor can do that shit, alright.
century, it became clear that the papacy and the reform were victorious. The Church had become a robust, centralized, hierarchical organization. With elaborate administrative and legal systems and immense resources, its power stretched across Europe. At the top of the pyramid was the Pope, ruling the Church as an absolute monarch. As popes grew stronger, kings were left envious. Then they followed suit. The power of medieval kings was constrained by the armed aristocracy. During the Central Middle Ages, their numbers vastly increased, and castles were multiplying, with wood being replaced by stone and designs getting bigger and stronger. Aristocratic lifestyle and culture underwent refinement with the advent of the Christian knight ideal and the code of conduct known as chivalry. But at the same time, aristocrats in some regions were faced with the emergence of stronger kings and kingdoms. In England, the Anglo-Norman dynasty formed a small and consolidated state, free of the feudal mess abundant on the continent. In Iberia, the reconquest of land from the Muslims strengthened the Christian kings, enabling centralized states to emerge. In France, the kings of the Capetian dynasty gradually expanded their personal domains, enabling a functioning state to form there as well. However, in the Holy Roman Empire, the exact opposite occurred. The once mighty empire disintegrated, forming a mosaic of autonomous principalities. Emperor Frederick Barbarossa attempted to restore the empire's former glory, but failed. The title of emperor, now bestowed by electors, became an...
Knowing how unstable Holy Roman Empire and any Germanic states were, Germany became a country itself, right? The people who are behind it. Again, I'm forgetting the damn name. How am I forgetting that? What was it? Bismarck, forgetting that. So what Bismarck did, how he unified Germany, how World War I and World War II kind of united after one emperor, and like World War II is clearly united after one person. That in itself is like an insane thing when you realize like how unstable these regions were for years to come. Just because where it is, how complex it is. Like it's always somewhat unstable. There's always politics happening. Even the emperors are fearing something like a pope or something like that, because nobody really ever had absolute control.
Empty one. The Central Middle Ages saw an agricultural revolution, urbanization, expansion, stronger popes, stronger kings, and vibrant culture. But around 1300, the climate worsened, growth halted, and famine spread.
Oh
A
yeah,
great calamity was approaching.
bubonic plague, right? Ah, here comes the rats.
The 14th century marks a watershed in European history. In 1340,
This is basically centralizing towns, making towns bigger, like we just seen, like him talking about, like how growth was happening, how agriculture was rising, how people were just expanding, how merchants were becoming more centralized and like actually trading at the global scale. When things expand and you don't see the sidelines of this or problems of it, something will happen, which is the bubonic plague. Why bubonic plague was so bad? Because everything was so dense, everybody was cramped in together. It was very unsanitary. But that was never an issue until now. And now plague can be spread really, really easily. This wouldn't have happened a few centuries ago, but it wouldn't have happened, but it would have clamped down. And this is not the first case of bubonic plague, but this is the first case of like something being this devastating because how dense everyone was. And why am I talking about this? Recent thing about recent industrialization, global world that we live in. We already have one strike of COVID. COVID shows people like it's not even at the Black Death level intense, and everybody was screwed. Everybody ran, like stay inside home for like months and even multiple years. And global warming, whether you believe it or not, like air is bad, right? When you see AQI of air, you just see like it's really bad. It's 20 years ago, air was much better. Doesn't matter which place you go to, air was just better. This is the place we live in. So when certain checkpoint level thing happens, which is like globalization of today, past 10, 15 years, it became like exponentially bigger everywhere. This will have a very bad point like Black Death. At least I'm fearing that. And first strike was like kind of like, like COVID. There will be Black Death level point, which is going to be devastating the modern world. It's like we're literal global world now. Europe was about Europe. Asia had nothing to do with it. America's, whatever Native Americans at the time had nothing to do with it. There were segments. Now it's not a segments. Now it's the global world. Everyone's affected. This is probably going to be somewhat devastating. I see parallels there. Whenever something big happens, people really condense and grow larger. If you don't see the side issues of that and don't like contain it, yeah, it will be a problem.
7. A global plague, now known as the Black Death, reached Europe. It rapidly spread across the continent and within a few short years killed approximately 1/3 of the population.
33%.
It was an unprecedented demographic disaster. Entire settlements were wiped off the map. Recurrent outbreaks of the plague would continue striking Europe for centuries. However, during the 14th and 15th centuries, Europe recovered, and for some survivors, the consequences of the plague were not so grim. As the population dropped, land became widely available,
There's a
and
silver
the
lining.
demand for labor rose dramatically.
Sucks. Black Death was here. Everything's screwed. But you know what? I see a lot of clear roads and clear grounds here. There you go. Hey, look at that land. I can take that land. Why not? Nobody lives there anymore. Yeah.
Bargaining power of peasants and workers increased, and they demanded improved conditions. When elites refused, revolts erupted across Europe. Nearly all of them were brutally suppressed. Yet, in the long run, change was inevitable. In Western Europe, peasants gained new freedoms and opportunities, and workers enjoyed higher wages. Out of the darkness of the Great Plague, creativity emerged. Technological innovation brought forth the wind and water mills, eyeglasses, new techniques for metal production and processing, and of course, the printing press.
There you go.
In the quickly recovering cities, new cultural trends flourished. A new renaissance thrived in Italy, set on reviving and surpassing the cultural achievements of ancient Greece and Rome. Renaissance scholars developed a new outlook on the world and on man's place within it. They defined the past millennium as Dark Ages, and so positioned themselves as the transition between the medieval and modern world.
Basically dunking on any other Renaissance thing happened in the past. Like none of those fucking things counted. Those are the Dark Ages. Those Middle Ages. We are the only one that matters from ancient Greece. Everything sucks between. That's what that was.
In the late 14th and 15th centuries, gunpowder transformed
Damn, look at that.
European warfare. The bravest knight could be shot down by simple infantrymen from a distance, and the most fortified castle could be breached with cannons. Supporting the new infantry and artillery armies was a costly affair, which only kings could manage. As they strove to monopolize the use of force within their territories, kings consolidated their power and asserted their authority over the aristocracy. These nobles, who lost their military superiority, began serving their rulers as administrators and courtiers. The sovereign state was emerging. In these troubled times, Europe's new military innovations were constantly put to the test. The Hundred Years' War waged between England and France devastated the French countryside. The war's
We are seeing a trend, right? Like how peasants are part of the military, so everything works because everybody needs each other. Oh, by the way, nobles are the military, peasants don't matter, so peasants are cog in the machine, they're getting screwed. By the way, peasants are again like becoming like this mortar and everything. Nobles are becoming the way we think of noble, advisories and everything. We are coming to a point now where peasants, us basically, don't matter because we have AIs and machines and everything. Yeah, history is anything, we're probably going to be screwed. Yeah, this is going yin and yang, going up and down, up and down. We are at that phase now where like common people don't matter. Well, eventually at least. But at least we have hindsight of knowledge. We have more knowledge than anyone ever had, access to it at least. So if we can't see all these things and somehow prevent common person to getting screwed, yeah, there is no hope for future. This is going to happen. This go back and forth. See, it doesn't matter how much complex we became. There is always a trend that you can see all the way back. Like this is always happens. Up and down, up and down. Peasants become like important part of peasants is cog in the machines. Who cares about them? Right now we are approaching that point. Oh, AI is here. Robotics are here. Rich people have the factory. Rich people have the money. Why do we need these people again? Jobs? What jobs? Yeah. If eventually people don't realize, oh, by the way, enough of this. We need global allowance or something because people don't need to work. So what is people going to do? People have to eat. In the end, people makes the country. People make the world. You can just brush them aside like we've been doing. Before it was different world because everybody needs to work. But if everybody doesn't need to work, we need to think what human is. And if human has a value or not. And most people agree, yeah, we have value. What the fuck are you talking about? So there you go.
course was reversed by a peasant girl, Joan of Arc, who rallied French troops against the English. Eventually, England was pushed out of France. In Iberia, the marriage of Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile led to the emergence of a unified Spain. Their combined armies conquered Granada, the last Muslim stronghold in the peninsula. These developments lay the foundations for the modern nation-states of England, France, and Spain. Other regions, such as Germany and Italy, would have to wait several centuries for their unification.
No conquest happened after that. Obviously, this is the modern world. Yeah, World War tried to do something, but yeah, it was just reverted back. Eraser was put like, enough of this. These are good enough borders, let's not go over our heads.
As the Middle Ages came to a close, Europe had not only recovered from the crisis brought by the Black Plague, but had also rebuilt itself on strong foundations. Gradually, its focus shifted outward. By 1500, Portugal had traversed Africa and the Indian Ocean, opening up commercial routes to the Far East, while Spain turned westward, crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
Portugal literally traveled all across Africa, spice, what is that smell? India, what is that? And there you go. Now we know India is there, and Portugal, first ever country, European country to set foot there. There you go. And British eventually like, yeah, we can do more.
And reaching the Americas. Columbus's voyage in 1492 is sometimes considered to mark the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the modern era.
Because
Over
of
the
America.
next centuries, European expansion would transform the globe and create the modern world we live in today.
Basically ended like, why are we hitting each other in Europe? What is over there? That's when it ended. Okay. Everybody's like, what? Why? No, don't come here. And there you go. Medieval Europe, 1,000 years in 20. This was a really awesome video, man. I really enjoyed it. It feels like old time. Like I used to watch videos like this a lot. I think I'm going to increase doing this, like history, geopolitics, shit like that. I love that. Go to original video page link and from there support this channel. And if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down if you want me to do more videos like this. And yeah, I'll see you next time.